A very good evening to you all and welcome to the Rwanda Television News in English. We'll begin with the headlines. The Prime Minister, Dr. Edouard Ngirente, affirms that investing in Africa's digital and technological capabilities is not an option but a must, as it reduces up to 25% of trade costs. On Monday, the Gambia's Police Chief, General Sidi Mukhtar Toure, was briefed on the operations and initiatives of the Rwanda National Police, both domestically and internationally. The international scene in Syria, the largest escalation in years, unfolds as Syrian rebels seize control of Aleppo, prompting the government to deploy troops and heavy weaponry to the frontliners. My name is Olive Nate, and it's always a pleasure to have you with us, and let's kick off tonight's edition. We'll start by this story that speaks about trade activities in Africa. Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente affirms that investing in Africa's digital and technological capabilities is not an option but a must, as it reduces up to 25% of trade costs. The remarks were made on Monday during the Africa Trade Development Forum 2024 opening. Prince Manzi kicks us off tonight.
It is my pleasure.
This forum aims to analyze the common market of 1,400 million Africans, worth $3,000 billion on how it can be productive. The CEO of Trademark East Africa, David Beer, states that various digital projects supported on the African continent have been impactful.
Rwanda's own installation of its electronic single window, which slashed clearance times for exports from 11 days to less than 2. Uganda's own single window delivered over $25 million per year of savings to traders. And Kenya's integrated customs management system has reduced the approval of manifests upon submission from 2 days to under 30 seconds. These are all real-world improvements that have a concrete impact not only on the margins of exporters, but also on whether goods are competitive or not, and so how successful a country's export-led growth strategy can be.
Participants of the forum affirmed that technology in Africa can also address the issue of many currencies, counting to 42 on the continent, and they are all converted to US dollars in the investment sector. The board chair of the Trademark Africa, Haile Mariam Desalegn, reiterates that half of Africans access internet and 66% access it globally, hence need to invest in internet infrastructures.
This digital divide hinders our progress and limits the potential of digital trade. We must invest in digital infrastructure, expand internet access, and enhance digital literacy across the continent to ensure that all Africans can participate in the digital economy. Secondly, digital inclusion goes beyond just providing internet access. It is about empowering individuals and communities to use digital tools effectively and participate meaningfully in the digital economy. We must design and implement digital solutions that are accessible and user-friendly and tailored to the needs of diverse groups, including women, youth, and people with disabilities, and those in the rural areas.
Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente affirms that investing in Africa's digital and technological capabilities is not an option but a must, as it reduces up to 25% of trade costs. He adds that Rwanda embarked on the use of technology to fast the achievement of the 2050 economic aim.
To achieve this ambitious vision, huge investments are needed in scaling up energy and digital infrastructure, thereby easing electronic cross-border payments and improving customs and logistics systems. The government has also invested in digitization of government services through an online platform called Irembo. This initiative has simplified access to government services for citizens, saving time and effort. It has also improved the efficiency and effectiveness of public administration and the service delivery to both citizens and businesses.
The Africa Trade Development Forum 2024 was participated in by 300 individuals from 15 African countries, and representing government officials, civil society, and the private sector.
Thank you, Prince, for the details. Now, moving on with other matters. On Monday, the Gambia's Police Chief General Sidi Mukhtar Touré was briefed on the operations and initiatives of the Rwanda National Police, both domestically and internationally. This is part of his official week-long visit to Rwanda. Enora Gladys has more on this.
Upon his arrival at the Rwanda National Police Headquarters in Kacyiru, the Gambia's Police Chief, General Sidi Mukhtar Touré, was welcomed by senior police officers before engaging in discussions with his Rwandan counterpart, CG Felix Namuhoranye.
Our focus should be on building capacities and capabilities necessary to confront threats to public security in our respective countries. Therefore, we must pull our efforts together and carve out better strategies to achieve our shared mission by fostering cooperation and ensuring a unified direction. With the time we will be here, we will keep exchanging on how to share and benefit from each other's experience and strength for improved capacities in our two police institutions.
During these discussions, he was briefed about the operations of Rwanda National Police, including ensuring the safety of people and their property, both domestically and abroad. General Sidi Mukhtar Touré and his delegation were also briefed on how the Rwanda National Police contributes to the development of citizens in collaboration with other institutions. The Gambia's Inspector General of Police highlighted that there is much to learn from Rwanda.
This mainly has to do with the general operations of the police. I have seen the canines, I have seen the marine unit, I have also seen the fire and rescue service, the drug control, and also the specialized, the SIF, which is mainly, responsible for crowd control and other tactical, operations. We equally have this unit, but then all what it takes, all the wire vitals to make the unit very vibrant. Perhaps that is what is lacking in our own setup. I want to specially extend these greetings to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, President Paul Kagame, who has been a very good role model to some of us when we were growing younger.
Throughout the week, General Sidi Mukhtar Touré will tour key initiatives and achievements of the Rwanda National Police across the country. He will also be introduced to the strategies and practices employed to enhance the force's daily operations. Enora Gladys, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Enora, for taking us through. Now, moving ahead with other matters. The Ministry of Trade and Industry has assured farmers that market access for their produce will no longer be a challenge, provided they adhere to proper processing standards. The ministry highlighted that investors are ready to facilitate the sale of these products both in Rwanda and on international markets. We have details on this. In Bugesera district, cassava is one of the most productive crops. However, farmers report that they have been struggling to find markets for their produce. Even when they do manage to secure a market, the prices they receive are often low and insufficient. We often experience prolonged dry seasons, but when we plant cassava, we are at least confident of a harvest. However, despite this, we still struggle to find markets for our produce, making it difficult to afford community-based health insurance or even school fees for our children. It is challenging to secure large markets. At times, we rely on local residents who purchase small quantities for personal consumption. When buyers are unavailable, we are left with no option but to let the produce go to waste. Cassian Karangwa, Director of Trade Promotion at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, will no longer face challenges in accessing markets for their produce, thanks to a range of strategies implemented by both the government and the private sector to resolve this issue. Whenever the situation exceeds their capabilities, the government steps in to assist. In cases where it is difficult to find markets, we have a toll-free line, 3739, which allows us to track production levels and to connect producers to available markets. The Ministry of Trade and Industry has stated that the government will continue to support farmers and traders in securing markets both regionally and internationally when local production surpasses domestic demand. Farmers are encouraged to ensure proper processing of their produce to meet market standards. Whether it is rice or maize, these crops need to be properly processed in factories, which requires thorough drying to meet market standards. Poor quality often leads to a lack of market opportunities, as buyers tend to reject substandard products. Despite delayed rainfall in some areas, agriculture experts are optimistic that this season's harvest will not be adversely affected. As a result, there is a strong focus on securing markets for key crops grown in large quantities in Rwanda, including maize, beans, rice, cassava, as well as vegetables and fruits. Still on the agriculture sector, stakeholders in Irish potato seed production across East Africa are calling for a harmonized seed quality policy to boost supply and ensure access to high-yield, disease-resistant varieties. We have more on this. During a regional forum that convened seed multipliers, agriculture experts, and researchers on this crop, participants explored strategies for enhancing collaboration among countries like Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda to boost Irish potato production. The SDG Center for Africa, which supports the continent's effort to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, emphasized the critical role of high-quality seeds in driving sustainable agricultural growth and food security.
We'll have potatoes on your dinner tables. But I think more needs to be done so that we can be able to increase the productivity of potatoes, and this is why we are part of this project, is to do just that. One of the things, of course, is to ensure that we have screening for diseases. We have also certified seeds, because having lack of certified seeds is the reason why we are having also low yields, because some of these seeds are not of good quality, and so they can't yield the type of quantities of potatoes that we actually want to have.
Athanase Nduwumuremyi, coordinator of Roots and Tubers Program, senior scientist at the Rwanda Agriculture and Animal Resources Development Board, points out that although some progress has been made, there is still a need to increase Irish potato production. Irish potatoes are a crucial crop in our country and are widely appreciated. While we have higher productivity compared to neighboring countries, there is still room for improvement. Over the past 3 years, we have introduced improved seed varieties to the market, and it is essential to ensure these seeds reach farmers to boost productivity further. Under the 5th National Strategic Plan for Agriculture Transformation, Irish potato production is projected to increase from 8.5 tons to 18 tons per farmer. To other matters, citizens in need of essential services have highlighted gaps that hinder their efficient and transparent delivery. These services include access to water and electricity, as well as the processing of driving license and related documentation. We have more on this. Access to electricity and water meters, along with infrastructure, as well as services enabling vehicle owners to transport people and goods, are among those perceived by some as acceptable to corruption. For example, individuals with domestic animals or those needing water for agricultural purposes may initially receive adequate water supply. However, once activities are completed, the water supply is often abruptly cut off. Attempts to seek clarification from the responsible branch typically result in unsatisfactory responses, leaving users without clear solutions. Obtaining a water meter remains a significant challenge. When you apply for one, you're given a specific date to collect it. However, upon returning on that date, you are often asked to come back on another day, and this cycle continues. This pattern suggests that bribes may be expected to expedite the process. Apollinaire Mupiganyi, Executive Director of Transparency International Rwanda, stated that a study conducted in 2023 revealed that institutions responsible for public service delivery continue to be hindered by corruption. Corruption has increased, particularly in the process of obtaining transport documentation. In Reg, residents have raised concerns about the lengthy wait times for cash power services, which they believe are unnecessary. Additionally, residents are often required to provide transportation for Reg or WASAC service providers, despite these employees being compensated by the institutions, which also have budgets allocated for service delivery. Madeleine Nirere, the ombudsperson of Rwanda, emphasized that addressing these corruption loopholes is crucial for accelerating the country's progress in achieving the second national strategy for transformation. Corruption remains a concern in institutions such as RURA, REG, and UCN, which reports corruption rates ranging between 8 and 10%. Other institutions have rates around 6.8%. These figures highlight persistent challenges, particularly in service delivery, that still need to be addressed. In an effort to address the corruption challenges within institutions under the Ministry of Infrastructure, including the Water and Sanitation Corporation, the Rwanda Energy Group, the Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Authority, and the Rwanda Transport Development Agency, their leaders have joined forces to devise strategies to eliminate these corruption loopholes. The permanent secretary at the Ministry of Infrastructure, Fidel Abimana, stated that measures have been put in place to ensure that individuals found guilty will face severe penalties. Various strategies have been implemented to enhance service delivery and reduce corruption, including the provision of services online. This approach minimizes opportunities for corruption that can lead to poor service delivery. Organizations such as WASAC and REG have adopted these measures. Additionally, there is a zero-tolerance policy for individuals caught engaging in bribery. For instance, in both WASAC and REG, employees found accepting bribes to provide services are immediately dismissed without further explanations. A study conducted by Transparency International Rwanda in 2023 revealed that the Water and Sanitation Corporation had a corruption rate of 4.30%. The Rwanda Energy Group recorded a rate of 3.9%, and the Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Authority had a corruption rate of 6.9%. You're still watching RTV News. Now to matters making headlines globally. In Syria, the largest escalation in years unfolds as Syrian rebels seize control of Aleppo, prompting the government to deploy troops and heavy weaponry to the front lines. VOA has more.
Syrian rebels say they are now fighting in the countryside of Hama after taking villages, towns, and much of Syria's second city, Aleppo, in the largest escalation of the Syrian civil war in several years. Meanwhile, Syrian and Russian airstrikes continue to hit rebel-held territories as Syrian President Bashar al-Assad fortifies the front lines with heavy weaponry and soldiers against forces they call terrorists, according to Syrian state media. For some families, renewed fighting means returning to homes they long ago fled.
Our house is burnt. There is nothing left but walls and ceiling, but we are happy to be here. I am with my husband and children, and we are happy. Thank God.
The United Nations says the violence has forced thousands of others to flee their homes and disrupted humanitarian assistance in the region. Hundreds of people have been killed, including dozens of civilians. Rebel soldiers launched the offensive last week as key Syrian government allies, Hezbollah and Russia, had become increasingly embroiled in wars with Israel and Ukraine. Rebel fighters say they have been waiting for years.
And this brings us to the close of today's edition, but before we leave, here is a quick recap of the top stories we've covered. Prime Minister Dr. Edward Ngirente affirms that investing in Africa's digital and technological capabilities is not an option but a must, as it reduces up to 25% of trade costs. On Monday, the Gambia's Police Chief General Sidi Mukhtar Touré was briefed on the operations and initiatives of the Rwanda National Police, both domestically and internationally. On the international scene, in Syria, the largest escalation in years unfolds as Syria rebels seize control of Aleppo, prompting the government to deploy troops and heavy weaponry to front lines. And that wraps up today's bulletin. Thank you for joining us for today's broadcast. On behalf of the entire news team, we wish you a productive week ahead. Stay safe.